So the first ride with the Restomod Raleigh 460 is finished. I will go over the parts in a moment, but suffice it to say, I'm pretty happy with how it did for the first about 10 miles. I mainly went on a really short ride because I live on a huge downhill, so I've got quite a lot of braking that happens on the very beginning and towards the middle because I live on a hill. So I've got a big climb and lots of braking at the start. So I'm a little concerned about the brake tracks, just because on the internet people say that the brake tracks wear out very quickly on the really cheap stuff. So so far so good. So first things first, I've got Shimano 105 shifting with both derailleurs being 105. I have a Dura Ace front derailleur coming that is lighter and nicer, and I think I'm going to put the Dura Ace on this one and then take the 105 from here and put it on my Sensa group set that's coming from my carbon build. Stay tuned for that. But at the front, I've never had handlebar shifting, aside from mountain bikes and stuff. I've always ever had down tube shifting. In fact, my other vintage bike has down tube shifters, and while I was building this I was still using that, and going immediately from down tube shifters to handlebar shifters or brifters or whatever you want to call them, STI I think is what Shimano calls them. It's fantastic. I know everyone knows this because everyone is on modern frames and stuff, but just having the stability of not having to take your arms off of the handlebars to shift. You can shift whenever you're going through a bumpy patch and not have to worry about stability. It's fantastic. I love it. The shifting is beautiful. It is fantastic. I have to adjust the rear derailleur slightly because on some of the middle cogs between, I'm just gonna have to mess with it. It's not quite perfect, but for the things where it is close enough, it is so much better than down tube shifters, even the fantastic ratcheted ones that I had. But the shifting is fantastic. I love 105 so much. The handlebars are some Chinese carbon fiber handlebars. They soak up so much of the road bumps because they're super flexy. So there's a complaint on the Amazon listing for these bars, which I'll link to in the description, where they flex too much. And I don't know if like they got bars and it was made out of like a floppy wet noodle, but it flexes enough that it bends a little bit and it soaks up some of those hard impacts. It's a little bit of suspension for your arms, especially if you put your hands in like this like half arrow kind of relaxed position where your arms are straight out and you're just holding the bottom of the bar instead of bending. It's just like going over bumps. It soaks everything up. Downside is internal cable routing on these things, as most other people have noted, is awful. This one in particular was especially awful because of the way that they lay up the carbon. There's like plastic in between sheets where the resin, and anyway, the way that it works, they didn't clean it up. So there's leftover bits of carbon, bits of plastic inside of the internal routing holes, so that when I was trying to route, because the hole's right here for the in from the shifter, and the hole's right out of there. So you have to go through this 90-degree bend, which is nigh on impossible unless you look up some great videos. Whenever I get my next bars, I'll show everyone how to do it, because it doesn't come with cable routing pre-run, which sucks. But this one was particularly awful because the stuff that was left inside of it. But after I got everything routed, they're fantastic. I love them. Handlebar tape, SRAM Super Cork. Can't complain. It's cheap. It doesn't seem to last. I've got it on my other vintage bike, and it's been on there for about a year, and it's starting to tear up a little bit. You can see the carbon underneath there. Ooh, one thing I forgot about the carbon bars. They have these like rough patches. I don't know if you can really see that very well, but it's smooth everywhere else except for the contact points, which is actually really cool, so that you don't technically need to put carbon paste, but you don't need to put the grip stuff on there so that it sticks, which is really cool. Only problem is they have them for the brifters as well, but they're not lined up. So one of them was like here, and then the other one was like here. So they're numbered, so it's like 1 degree, 5 degrees, 10 degrees, which would be super helpful if they were lined up correctly, but they're not. So like 1 degree on here was like 5 degrees over there. I just had to go off of the good old like put them in line with each other and level them out and tighten them down. Moving on, this is a quill stem. So it's got threaded headset with a fantastic so far Origin 8. No complaints so far. Setting it up was easy. I'll let you know how it lasts. But it's got this threaded headset with a threadless stem adapter into a 70 degree, I think. Nope, it's a 90 millimeter 35 degree. That's what it is. And the geometry works out pretty well. I'm gonna have to raise the seat a little bit, but this is just the first ride. Just reporting how everything went for the first ride. Phone mount, you can find them on Amazon. Anyone will do. That one works fine. I'm not a particular fan of it, but it holds my phone in and it hasn't fallen out going over huge bumps. The frame, like I said, is a Raleigh 460 TECHNIUM, so aluminum main frame with steel rear triangle. It has internal cable routing, which is really cool for the 80s, for the rear brake, and only the rear brake. Everything else is external. It's got down tube shifters with these Shimano adapters on it. The Shimano adapters are fantastic because it takes the down tube shifter, turns it into a cable stop and a barrel adjuster, which is fantastic for the if you had an old style 105 or some cheaper front derailleurs where you can't adjust them after you pull on the cable and tighten it down. So when you're setting it up, you can just kind of like pull it willy-nilly, not really having to care, and then you can just adjust it on its adjuster over here. The bottom bracket is a Shimano Ultegra bottom bracket. No creaks, no squeals, hasn't come loose yet. This is just 10 miles, so we'll see how it lasts. The pedals are the Dior XT pedals. Fantastic so far. They're a little heavy, but I'm not a fan of clipless pedals as of yet so far. I have not been convinced that clipless pedals are fun to use and safe, just for me. Fantastic for everyone else, but I like flats just because I like to be able to, hop off in the event of a crash right away. I don't want to have the learning curve. We'll see how that lasts. The crank was a find. I didn't know that Shimano made this. It is a compact crank, but it is a 105 kind of looking crank, but it weighs sort of closer to the Tiagra cranks and stuff like that. It's an in-between crank that's unbranded. It's just got a model number. I'll put it in the description. I got mine for $50. So it's a heavier than 105 crank. I have some Chinese cranks coming in the mail. It just looks great, and it's a little bit heavy, but it's unbranded, so it just has Shimano, no 105. I actually like the stealth look. I think it looks pretty good. Wish it weighed less. I think it's about 900 grams, but front derailleur, 105, no complaints, works just fine. The cable routing underneath, just so that you can see that as I sneeze. Cable routing underneath is pretty standard for external cable routing. It runs back here into cable stop and then through some sleeving into the 105 rear derailleur into a 1132 cassette? 1132 or 1134? I think it's 1132. But just on the flat areas, I find myself right in here. There's a great section of trail by a lake near me where I like shift gears a lot and go through up and down some hilly sections and curvy. It's some of the best road trails that I've ridden on, period, ever. I'm just really lucky that it's within 10 miles of bike riding from me. Quick release skewers came with the wheels, and the wheels are the interesting part. So everything else is pretty bog standard. You've got, carbon handlebar, rim brakes, that kind of, the brakes. I should probably go over that before I tease you a little bit. They're Treco R559s. They're long reach. So this was originally a 27-inch frame. And as you can see, it's a conventional, 27-inch frame. But I needed long range brakes to be able to fit the 700C stuff because no one makes 27-inch road tires anymore, which kind of sucks. That's not true, but it's harder to find stuff for it. But these carbon rims, just 10 miles on them, but they feel fantastic. They ride really smooth. They soak up bumps. Maybe a little bit of that's to do with the I'm under inflating these a little bit, mainly because the pump that I currently have broke as I was inflating the rear tire. Fantastic. So right now it's at like 95 PSI, but it feels fantastic. I will report continually as I use it on the brake track. But these were $300, $320. I'll pop the number up on the screen. Not expensive. It was like a $120 premium over an aluminum wheel set. Brand new from China with decent hubs. I've heard that these hubs actually are, you know, fine. They last a decent amount of time. We'll see about that. But so far, to report on them, they seem to be working fine. The seat is an old Bell Dart. It functions. Bottle cages, they're old, aluminum. They hold my pink bottle, purple, whatever. So far, after the first 10 miles, I'd have to say it's pretty good. First ride done. I'm pretty happy. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Enjoy my cat running around the deck for a minute. And if you want to, you can subscribe. That's about it. She's scared of UPS trucks.